Welcome back, guys, to CFL Central, CFL content for the fans, by the fans. And I know it's been a bit of an interesting setup today. Excuse me, a little bit of a lowered resolution. I'm actually having to record this with my webcam. I'm having some issues with my phone. However, the audio should sound a lot better, and I'm actually recording this in my room and whatnot. I got the flag set up for the Grey Cup. It's Grey Cup season here. And wow, I am so excited for this. The Bombers are in the Grey Cup game for the third straight year, and the Argos have finally been able to overcome being in just that conference final game, or division final, whatever, and have made it to the big game. Now, the Argonauts have a very, very good record when it comes to how they perform when they get themselves a Grey Cup appearance. So that's definitely something that we'll have to take into consideration for this. I think this game will be a very tight game, even though I think the Bombers do have the edge. Being your back-to-back defending Grey Cup champions, it's hard to not give them an advantage. But, you know, this will be really, really exciting. Andrew Harris will be playing for the Argonauts here against his former team. Andrew Harris looking for the three-peat. So there will be a three-peat of some sorts, either for the Bombers or for Andrew Harris. And so, yeah, against his former student in a guy like Brady Oliveira, grew up in Winnipeg through the Oak Park system. Brady Oliveira really following in the footsteps of Andrew Harris. And you can see that in his game. Brady Oliveira was definitely a standout in the division final, where he was able to put up 130 yards against BC, where Winnipeg, had been known more for their throwing game and the way that they've been able to use Greg Ellingson when he was in. And Dalton Schoen, they've used him all year and done a fantastic job. Rasheed Bailey really got going near the end. Nick Dembski has been excellent the whole time. So having that receiving core at their disposal, the Bombers' offense has been a lot more a lot more throwing. However, in a game like last game where it got really, really cold and it got really, really slippery, you have to be able to run the ball, and the Bombers were able to get that done, and very handily so against the BC Lions. Guys like Stanley Bryant really opening up those holes to allow a guy like Oliveira to really push the play forward and really just create some offense through the running game for the Bombers. So that'll be really, really essential for them in this game against Toronto. But you have to wonder how having a guy like Andrew Harris playing against his former team will psychologically affect both him, his team, as well as the Bombers, as I think that this might be the Bombers' toughest chance in the Grey Cup of the three that they've went through. They had a really close game last year. But Toronto, as much as they've had some inconsistency problems this season, as of late, they've really been able to get their stuff together, and they've gotten themselves to the big game. They've beaten the Alouettes, and the Alouettes got, the only victory at IG Field over the Bombers this past season. So that is worth something. There's no way it isn't. A guy like Curtin Gittins Jr. has done excellent with 1,101 yards for the season. Jamal Peters on DB, 6 interceptions for him. Winston Rose only getting half of that. And Jagarrett Davis, Mr. Grey Cup himself, is back in the big game, this time for the Argos, looking to pick up that Grey Cup. He leads the Toronto Argonauts in sacks with 7, as does Willie Jefferson lead the Bombers with 7 as well. So it'll be really interesting to see how the defense of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers was really able to handle that Toronto Argonauts offense. I really think on the offensive side of things is where Toronto is going to have a little bit of difficulty, is simply with how shut down defense the Bombers have been able to play. And the big question for the Bombers is, Caleros is playing. We know that. However, is he going to be at that true 100%? And are the Argos really going to be able to take advantage of that? When they see a guy who's got a hurt leg, you know what that tells them? That tells them put pressure on this guy, force him to scramble. Zach Caleros is notoriously really, really good at scrambling. But, when he's dealing with an injury or even a hurt leg of any sorts, forcing him to scramble to become uncomfortable is a great way to either, have him go out and be able to get that tackle on him and get that sack, or just be able to force him to making a mistake to end that drive and to go 2 and out. So I really think there's going to be a lot of an interesting strategy here in this Grey Cup game that we have not necessarily seen this season from either team, just with all these circumstances at once. And it'll be, like I said, I'm really curious to see how the Bombers manage Andrew Harris. That's going to be really key for Toronto, is getting that Andrew Harris game running up the middle and really being able to push downfield just with the running game without even having to go to the air. Because if you can push really, really hard with the running game and you don't have to go to the air, you are decreasing your risk of turning that ball over, which is the last thing that Toronto wants to do in a game against the Bombers, where they've really been able to put up some really good offense these past few games. So overall, this is going to be a really tight game. I think that we're going to be looking at a final that will be under a touchdown difference. And my prediction is that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers will become your back-to-back-to-back Grey Cup champions. I know, I'm a Bombers fan. It is impossible for me to go against them. But at the end of the day, we are talking about the back-to-back Grey Cup champions, and they are that for a reason. But like I said, we cannot count Toronto out of this game. There's a ton of talent on that team, and win, lose, or draw, the Toronto Argonauts even getting to the Grey Cup, I got to imagine will do wonders for the city and hopefully wonders for the franchise. And they'll be able to really get some new fans coming out to their games. Is that something they could really, really use? Just some updated attendance, as Toronto has been a little bit struggling in that department, more than you would think for a region as big as Toronto, and a population as great as Toronto. But I think that the MLSE is really. I would like to think that they're really turning the leaf on this one, but we'll have to see. But if they're able to get this Grey Cup and bring that back, obviously fantastic Grey Cup for the Argonauts, and they will extend their lead with the most Grey Cups out of any franchise. But more importantly, they'll be able to get some more young fans in the building for the next generation of those little Argonauts. But yeah, so 109th Grey Cup, Regina, Saskatchewan. It's happening tomorrow. I cannot wait to watch this game. You know that after the game, I will have my video out here. I will have my video on the Nolan Hockey podcast from just a Bomber perspective of that game. And I am so excited. I've waited so long for this, and I cannot wait for this game to start, as it's going to be a fun day. And yeah, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you guys haven't already. And I'll see you guys next time.